Thank you so much for tuning in to the Project 31 podcast today. I hope that your week has been going great and you have just been full of love and joy and all that good stuff. So today's show, God has been doing some amazing things. A good friend of mine just got engaged. It's just like, okay, God is up to something. He is in the neighborhood. He is blessing. So just a heads up to everyone who's out here waiting for God, seeking God, anticipating God to do something great. Be encouraged. Because when he shows up like this, he's here. It's like it's yours for the taking. Let me read. I don't know why I keep saying that word. Let me reel it on in real quick. I want to share something today. I know you've heard the saying that, you've paid the cost to be the boss, right? A lot of times I feel like when God blesses our neighbor, when he blesses our sister, with a husband or with a new job, new car, new house, whatever it is, it's very, very easy to be like, well, how did they get that and not me? Or, God, where's mine? It's like the enemy wants us to kind of compare or do, kind of like weigh our blessings to one another. Kind of want to, dab a little into that. I remember seeing a post that said how you can think somebody just came out of nowhere. But it said, oh, no, honey, I came through a process. Yeah, I didn't just come out of nowhere with this blessing. I came through something. So in Ecclesiastes 3, it says that there's a season, an appointed time for everything, and a time for every delight and event or purpose under heaven, right? Verse 2, it's a time to be born and there's a time to die. And here's one part that I want us to focus on right now. It's a time to plant and a time to uproot what is planted. Let's just stop where there's a time to plant, okay? I believe, and I just hope that we can get it in our hearts and in our minds, because this will allow us to be guarded, basically. This allows us to guard our hearts, to guard our minds from that stupid, trap that the enemy wants to get us in. There's a time to plant. A lot of times when we see a manifestation, when we see a blessing, when we see God come through for somebody, it's not just random. It's not just, just out of nowhere. It has come through the process of time. Somebody has planted a seed. Let's talk about that. That's why we say celebrate your neighbor, celebrate your sister when you see their success, celebrate, your brother when they have good news, celebrate that person, because you really don't know what they've gone through to get to that point. This has been a process. My first lady say all the time, trust the process. We have sown a seed. I remember, and I can't wait. I can't wait to just dive into the different aspects of, my singlehood. Listen, there has been a lot of sowing. There has been a lot of weeping. There has been a lot of time and effort and sacrifice and push and press and tears and laughs. You got to laugh to keep from crying. This journey, it's been a journey. The saved, single, sane. That was the whole purpose of me, even writing the book. It was so crazy because I was actually writing a fictional story. And, because that's just been something that I've wanted to do forever. I've always been a writer and I always wanted to write. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I could get out here and I'm going to just write this story. And it was just totally made up. And in the midst of me writing that book, in the midst of me writing that story, that fictional story, I felt God say, no, tell your story. Excuse me, Jesus, you talk to me? You want me to tell I didn't even feel like I had a story to tell. I didn't really know what I was going to share. But at that moment, I knew when he said, tell my story, I began to put the pieces together and I began to see what he was doing. From the beginning of time, I was pulling back memories of how, I always found myself wanting to be in a relationship, always wanting to have a boyfriend, at one point a girlfriend, if we could just keep it all the way real. I've always was dependent on this relationship. Like, I always needed this relationship to thrive. And then when it carried over into salvation. I got saved and I was like, I always needed to be with somebody. Not knowing that, no, Randy, you need to be with God. So I had to go through all these different processes, all these different levels to learn more about him. And I'm like, okay, you want me to tell this part? And then so I began to just write it down and, just bleeding on the paper, basically, and I was able to put it out. 2014, I released Saved, Single, and Sane, The Journey of a Single Woman. And I mean, it was a blessing. I was so shocked, at the response. And now here I am 4 years later and married. And I'm in the process of revamping that story because I've learned so much. I can stand back and see, God, that's why you had me go through that. Now I can see I really did pay the cost to be the boss in my life, not over nobody else's life, but he allowed me to do the things that was required to be eligible to share this story. That's why I say I'm not an expert. I'm just experienced. And if my experience, if I can share that in the words of my pastors, I can take off a lot of tears, fears, and years off of somebody else's life by sharing my truth, by sharing my journey. So listen, seeds have been sown of patience, like of hope. I'm talking about when you got to encourage yourself, when you like, Lord, when is this going to change? I'm lonely, Jesus. I can pick up a phone call. I can pick up the phone. I can call somebody, God, but I want to be obedient. Of perseverance when I got to stand here and celebrate somebody else, even when in the back of my mind, I feel like maybe they're not as deserving as me. Come on, let's be for real. All these different thoughts can cross your mind when you're, waiting for God, when it seems like the wait is too long, when it seems like the wait is unbearable. Trust me, you can make it. It is so true that God knows how much we can bear. Like, for real. Even when we feel like we want to pull our freaking hair out, like, God knows, I remember one of my messages I shared, don't turn your waiting room into a panic room. Like, just chill. God has everything under control. We feel like, God, I need a man now. I need this now. I need you to do that. Like, okay, but there's a reason why you don't have it. And once we get that mentality, once we get that understanding, then it's easier to cope with his decision. See, what I like is you have to die to yourself and your expectations. When the seed is planted, part of that process of growth is that the seed, it dies. So it's like, okay, Randy, I got to die to my own expectations. I have to take the pressure off of God to perform my will. This is what I want. This may not be what God has for me. And I got to be okay with that. But trust me, it takes some time to get there. It really does. It really, really does. It takes some time to get there. But I just think about this song and I so wish I could sing. One day I may bless the airwaves with my great voice that the Lord has not anointed yet to sing. But the psalmist says, as soon as I stopped worrying how the story ends, when I let go and I let God, I done messed that up. I let God have his way. That's when things start happening. So it's like, okay, this is a process. I had to stop worrying. And not only did I have to stop worrying, I had to stop worrying about how the story was going to end. God, he knows our end from the beginning. He said he knows the thoughts that he has towards us. They're good and not evil, to give us a hope and an expected end. We don't have to worry about the end because he's given us an expected end. And it's good and it's not evil. We have to let go of our own expectations and completely give over the reins to God. If we are going to succeed in this walk, if we are going to make it as single women, as married women, as women in ministry, as CEOs, as philanthropists, whatever lane you are in, you have to let go of your own expectations, let go of your own will, and let God have his way. Yes, pay the cost to be the boss. Do what is required of you so that God can bless you in a great way, okay? So I leave you with that message. Take the pressure off of God to perform your will. Say, hey, nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. Let that be your thought process this week. Nevertheless, God, not my will, but thine will be done. I take all pressure off of you and I go with the flow. I surrender my mind, I surrender my will, and I give it all over to you. All right? So today, the Project 31 podcast, where we live, we learn, and we lead. Be encouraged and let God have his way. Don't forget, you can like and share, follow and connect. Follow me on IG at Minister Randy _B. On Facebook at Randy Lulu Mall, MULL. Or go and follow the blog at SavedSingleSane.com.